What is one thing a person has said to you that made you think, wow, this person is an idiot? If Earth is spinning, why my front door is always facing east? The home builder probably forgot to install the gyroscope under his foundation. I nearly went brain dead reading this. I just looked up away from my screen and stared into the distance thinking about it and whether does it actually make sense. It does make sense if east was a point in the sky. But that ain't how it works. A customer at work, when she saw my name tag, told me she didn't want to be rude, but she was just absolutely disgusted with what my people are doing to Ukraine. I'm Icelandic, I genuinely, though she was talking about Eurovision for a second. In what world is an Icelandic name similar to a Russian one? Also, even if you were Russian, or just had a Russian name, what a stupid thing to say. My name is basically alphabet soup, and Americans assume I'm Russian often. It's a very classic Icelandic name that doesn't sound Russian at all. I haven't paid attention. Is Ukraine in Eurovision this year? ETA, maybe NATO membership consideration should take Eurovision participation into account. My ex's brother in full confidence said lava was 2 words. Tried to explain it's 2 syllables, not words. I was the idiot apparently. Edit, for context, we were watching a Phineas and Ferb movie. They were all on a chain over lava. Phineas tells them to let go of the cliff and Candace says something along the lines of, I have one word for you. LAVA. And then his brother looked at us and proudly said, that's 2 words, dumbass. He was / is notorious for having little to no common sense. That's an amazingly pointless hill to die on. So a very flat hill. Maybe, could be rounded. Mexico is the capital of Spain. What a moron. Everyone knows it's S. I went on a group trip to Spain, and since the group was people from all over the world, we all got to talk online first. Some of the Americans were talking about being able to try authentic tacos and burritos when we got to Spain. I'm American too, but the stereotype exists for a reason. I'm pretty sure it's the euro. A work colleague coming in the day after a visit to the zoo telling us that panthers aren't really pink. I can almost hear the disappointment in their voice just from reading that. A heart was broken that day. And God left heaven. That's why he's called the Pink Panther and not a Pink Panther. Years ago, a couple proudly told me they had been going to Spanish classes for a year because they wanted to immigrate to Brazil. When I pointed out that they speak Portuguese, not Spanish, I got told that all of Latin America speaks Spanish. Even bigger idiot, I thought everyone was in on the brown cows make chocolate milk joke. But apparently there was still some idiot who wholeheartedly believed it. There's, apparently, a real percentage of people who believe this, something like 7% of Americans. I remember seeing something like that in a late night scroll session. I was in my 20s working at a bank when I learned most other people think Brazil speaks Spanish. A client came in to take out some foreign money for a trip and one of his stops was Brazil, all the others were Spanish-speaking countries. Since he was a regular, I knew he spoke English, French, and Spanish. When I asked if he also spoke Portuguese since he was going to Brazil, he stared at me like I had grown another head. He was floored that a bank teller knew that Brazil was Portuguese speaking since everyone else he spoke to just assumed they speak Spanish, and he had spent most of his trip planning explaining that no, he won't be speaking Spanish his entire trip. It turns out all the other tellers at the bank who heard us were shocked to learn this too. Such a strange thing for so many people to get wrong on a global scale. While standing in the middle of Disney World and staring at a foldable paper map of the park in her own hands, my sister-in-law goes, "Why doesn't this map tell me where I am?" These maps usually have a little arrow that says something like you are here so you know where you're at. You have to pay extra for the Marauders feature. Disney doesn't own Harry Potter, yet, but they do have that feature at Universal Studios. They actually had a shot at Harry Potter before it went to WB or whatever it is. If that had happened, there would only be Disney theaters now, which is probably going to happen anyway. I had a classmate ask if an ancient Greek philosopher is still alive. To whoever wondering, it was Thucydides. Yeah man, my boy Socrates lives 2 doors down from me. If they were asking about Diogenes, I wouldn't put it past him to still be alive. The first person I dated after my amputation freaked out over it and said to stay away because they didn't want to catch what I had, as if amputations due to cancer are contagious. This was right when MySpace had started getting popular, and texting costed you like 10 cents per text. Should have told them that it grows back if you water it. Or that you can grow a clone from the severed limb. I told someone I had a biopsy done years prior for melanoma, but it was benign. It meant I didn't have skin cancer. He freaked out because we had messed around, no sex, and he thought I was going to give it to him. Don't run outside in the winter, your lungs will crystallize. It's not good for you, said while smoking a cigarette. Edit, yes, the water in your lungs can crystallize and destroy your cells at very low temperatures, but I did some reading and sports doctors say there's no chance of this happening above 50°C/68°F. It was the sanctimonious dismissal of running as a healthy activity combined with the idea of a lung somehow crystallizing that sealed the deal for me on this one. They're clearly from the Siberian tundra and we're talking about when it's -50. The cigarette clearly keeps their lungs warm. Lol. I've had someone argue that smoking was ultimately healthy for your lungs in the sense that putting in all that tar and chemicals was some kind of training. Like regularly running makes you fitter. Regularly smoking trains your lungs to be able to handle things like lung infections better. He couldn't be told that his logic wasn't bulletproof and had this smarmy gotcha grin on his face that I wanted to punch right off him. The government wants you to think we're running out of oil. We're not, because it comes from bones. We could extract it from chicken bones. I was fascinated by how he had interpreted fossil fuels and then come to the most hilariously wrong conclusion. Some URL, vertical bar I like Ben Wagoner response to why this is not feasible to create artificial fossil fuel. I mean, it is still possible, and is still a viable option if we need to convert certain types of energy like solar, hydro or wind energy to fossil fuel, like how we convert solar energy to electricity. Only if we can drop the Arroyo FC, but I do think this is a topic and technically worth investing on, not on fossil fuel like petroleum and diesel but on lighter chain like kerosene and natural gas, which is more effective for giving energy and is more environmentally friendly. For 2 painful years at my former employer, I worked for a very dangerous idiot. He got hired in because he rubbed elbows with the right executive, and now this buffoon was responsible for $40 million of business of which he had no grasp on reality. One day he walked around the place praising himself for winning another major contract. Everything he won wound up being a disaster. I looked into it out of fear, and within 5 minutes I discovered that he underquoted the job by at least 50%, wound up being far worse than that after a more thorough look. I brought this up to him. His response was, yeah, but I sold it at 40% margin. Was this by any chance a paper company? The people person's paper people. Sorry. Random and completely unrelated question. Is your username based on a lyric from a Billy Talent song? A friend of a friend was badly injured in a bike accident. A car blew a red light going west, causing the biker going north, who had the right of way, to plow into the car and flip over it. This person said the biker deserved to be hurt because they're the one that crashed into the car. My sister-in-law got boned when she had the right of way and this bitch had a stop sign. She didn't stop and caused my SIL car to flip 3 times uphill. It was supposed to be a 50-kilometer zone and all she had to say for herself was, "This is totally gonna ruin my vacation." They won't tell me who hit her. A colleague of mine thought jellyfish were a myth. Please tell them about narwhals. If you didn't know any better, you'd think unicorns are a hell of a lot more likely to exist than narwhals. Horse with a horn? Plenty of hoofed mammals have horns. Sounds plausible. A whale with a horn? No freaking way that's real. That reminds me that no one in England believed that platypuses were real until someone managed to bring a live one there from Australia. Quite right too. That sort of animal definitely requires proof to believe in. Someone once tried to convince me that my coat makes me gay. God made me gay, this coat makes me fabulous. This phrase also works if you're straight. It's awesome. Is it a Technicolor Dreamcoat? Joseph, the first historical gay icon. A girl once asked how drugs were sold. I told her the black market. Then she shouts in front of everyone. Wow, that's so racist. As a kid I always imagined it as like these farmers markets, but like under a bridge in a shady part of town. With many sellers just being guys with these coats that have a bunch of inside pockets so they can show you the stuff more stealthily. Yeah. Or like in a secret road somewhere where you can just walk in and it's super secret and that's why police can't find it. It's not? What have I been doing for the past 20 years then?